Welcome back to the Planet Family Doc podcast and part 2 of our conversation with Sister/Dr. Monique Bourget. We are a production of the College of Family Physicians of Canada's Bezoar Centre for Global Family Medicine, and I'm Dr. Clayton Dick. I'm the medical education lead for the centre and your host today. In part 2 of this episode, Sister Monique's going to describe the challenges that she's been facing as she has been trying to establish family medicine in Benin. She's also going to talk about the joys she's found in the work that she has been doing there, both as a physician and as a nun. She also has a great soccer story to tell and something very sisterly that she'd like to bring for her potluck dinner. So you're in Brazil and you are a family physician doing clinical work, doing obstetrics. You're working in leadership and administration, developing family med programs. You're involved in residency training and education. And then you are told that you're going to move to Benin. How have you changed in terms of how you view yourself as a family physician there now in that totally different context?
So the challenge of coming to Benin has been to go back to clinical work, right? I haven't been able to do that all that much because to be accepted by the Order of Physicians of Benin, I need to be Beninoise. So I'm working on my citizenship of Benin, but I've been working a little bit at a hospital, which is also a religious managed hospital by the Chameleon Brothers or priests. And I did a little bit of management work there. And now for a whole bunch of different circumstances, I'm actually implementing palliative care, which is a need that is felt for the whole of Benin. Benin is one of the first West African countries to have a plan for 5 years to implement palliative care units in all of Benin, mostly to bring some morphine and pain management for cancer patients that unfortunately don't have possibility to have access to chemotherapy and cure. So it's been very challenging. Although in Benin, the official language is French, there's a lot of people who speak the local language. So that's one of the first barrier that I'm having is to be able to understand the people. Even though I've been here for 3.5 years, my local language is very limited. And also because there's about 60 different local languages. So it's a little bit challenging, and I find that very difficult because I think one of the main part of being a family physician is being able to communicate with your patients, right? It's not only the language, but it's the culture, because their concept of health and the causes of disease is very different as well.
As I understand it, I mean, Benin is the birthplace of voodoo, correct?
That's right. So a lot of the health problems they believe is spiritual based, right? Or somebody has given him a bad eye, or I'm not sure what's the real expression in English, but
evil eye.
Right, evil eye. So that's very difficult because sometimes people don't want to use the Occidental or the public system because they believe because it's an evil eye, you can't go to the physician. You can't receive an IV solution because if you do, you're going to die. So they go to the traditional healers and they use herbs. And we've had many different examples here in the school where I live. 2 of our teachers actually have them, which look like cellulitis on their feet. And they had like swollen feet and they wouldn't go. It was difficult. It was very difficult because I'm being a physician. I said, well, you have to go to the hospital, but They didn't go. It actually cured, but it took them a long time. And they used the herbs, and then they had these wounds, and then, but I didn't touch it because for them it had to be a healer. It had to be a traditional healer to do that.
To what degree does your dual role as a nun and a physician affect your interactions with your patients there? I guess Benin is about a little over 50% Catholic or Christian, I should say.
Right. Well, 40% Christian, 40%,
40%? Okay.
yeah, Muslim, and then 20%, which would be from indigenous cultures, right? But even though people are Christian, a lot of them are also part of indigenous religions, right? People have
Yeah.
a lot of syncretism, and that makes it difficult. But even the priests, right? Even we had last week a situation which would be also a palliative care patient, a priest that was very sick, and he entered the hospital in coma. And then some of the priests really believed there was a spiritual cause, even though we don't really know why he was in coma. The resources, the technological resources are limited. We don't have magnetic resonance. There's only one in all of Benin, right? There's about 4 CT scans. And then, so some of the resources are very limited sometimes to make the diagnosis. So that's a real challenge. At the same time, I work a little bit implementing palliative care, where really at the beginning there is a whole mentality to try to organize, but I think the main difficulty is the disponibility or availability of morphine, right?
Mm.
So there's only one place where the government actually gives it free. It's a solution, but there's not enough for all the patients. So we really have to choose which patients and be very careful and for who we give it. But on the other hand, I've been doing some what we call pastoral work, which is a program that was actually in Brazil that works in about 12 different countries. And it's a little bit like the healthcare agents, but volunteer and through the church. So we train these volunteers on basic knowledge about breastfeeding, and we try to tell them that women have to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months. And then we talk about a little bit about nutrition. What's the good nutrition? Even though it's an agricultural country where we have the best pineapple in the world, they don't eat that much. It's only like once or twice a week for some families that they would eat vegetables and fruits. So that's really something we're working on to try to bring them. If not, their food is very starchy and proteins. So they eat fish, they eat some meat, and they eat a lot of rice and corn.
Mm. You must have some conflicting feelings about some of this. On the one hand, you're coming to Benin with ideas that you hope would be helpful for the individuals and communities that are there. On the other hand, you're having to deal with introducing these in a way that's culturally sensitive and demonstrates a degree of cultural literacy. How are you dealing with those challenges?
I think the biggest challenge, opening up my heart a little bit, is I think not being able to use all what I've been accumulating as experience, and be able to put it to the country, to I think what I could bring as a family physician, and helping developing maybe some strategies, right? Because I've had so many opportunities in Brazil. For all the white people that are that are here are a little bit considered as Europeans, and everything. Every time you go in the street, they call you Yobo, right? They call you the white person.
Mm.
So that's all the time, everywhere. And I think that's you don't feel as welcomed as oh, well, I don't think I feel as welcomed as I was in Brazil. So I didn't have any opportunities yet to be able to help more, I think, the system. So I'm trying to do a little bit through these other works. So through the work in the hospital, here in the school, we started the ecological garden. So we're trying to introduce also through the setting of a garden to the students and then to the families of the importance of eating fruits and vegetables, and then growing them yourself, because the earth is also can give you this opportunity here, and there's a lot of earth to be able to do that. And then through the medical visit that I do for the 660 kids every year, I see them once a year. And then I reinforce all the prevention orientation about nutrition, about brushing their teeth, and then accompany their growth and see. An interesting thing is not many have glasses, and many would need glasses, and I do detect them and detect that in the consultation that I do, but sometimes people don't have the money to be able to buy glasses. So year after year, I send the report and I tell them, and then they don't go and they don't buy glasses. So that's some of the challenges. And then through this program that I'm doing with the volunteer agents, we've detected some children with hydrocephaly, with cerebral palsy. We work with the pregnant ladies and the women that breastfeed. We actually give them, I have my family who's put up a foundation, and I have friends in Europe, and people have sustained the work here. So we've actually accompanied probably about 200 to 300 pregnant ladies every month, giving them iron and folic acid throughout their pregnancy. And then for the women that breastfeed, we give them also iron for 6 months.
Mm.
Because I think that's a little gesture, but we actually have a high infant mortality and a high maternal mortality. One of the biggest cause of maternal mortality is bleeding, right? So if we can have them come to their birth, to the moment they give birth, a little less anemic, I think we can change a little bit that figure, because it's they say there's 1,500 women every year that die giving birth.
Wow. I'm comparing in my head work and experience that you had in Brazil with what you're doing now. And there's overlap, but it seems quite different than in terms of the role that you're doing. Do you still consider yourself to be a family physician?
I think even more now, because I'm actually working really from, how do you call it, from crib to rip. I'm actually working like from pregnancy, accompanying the pregnant ladies and the babies, and then working in palliative care. So yeah, I think family medicine has this broad spectrum, which gives you the opportunity to work with prevention. And I've been a little bit involved as well with the movement, which is probably called the Green Church in Canada. So with environmental issues with the church. So we're actually trying to we put up two different committees to be able to change some of the aspects of pollutions and plastic utility usage. And anyway, there's a lot to do in in that sense. So I think family physicians do clinical work, but also do prevention, promotion, and I think I'm all involved in doing that. And I feel as a real family physician, except that here in Benin, I'm probably the only family physician because nobody talks about family physicians. They're generalists, but generalists are these young physicians that really want to do some specialty after.
So effectively, you're leading the charge for family medicine in Benin.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish there would be an opening to discuss the specialty, but it hasn't come forward yet. I'm praying it will, and I don't won't be too old to be able to make some help making some changes. But yeah,
I think the experience you're describing is similar in a sense to what I found during my work in southern China, where there was no family medicine established at the university that I was working at. I think what I ended up doing was going to teach general clinical skills, evidence based medicine, and so on at the university's invitation. But I integrated family medicine concepts into much of the work that I was doing. And as time went on, people started to approach me about family medicine and what it was about, and the interest grew to the point where now there actually is a family medicine center at Shantou University, which is great progress. I wonder if that might reflect a bit of what your experience is going to be like in Benin.
yeah. I hope that I'll have some openings.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It sounds again like you're doing amazing work. I I have to say I've seen some of the Facebook posts that you've put up, looking at some of the programs that you've had and just some of the events and activities that were happening there. And they seem to be incredibly joyful. A lot of them include children and dressed up for festive occasions and so on. So what's not to love with that? But it seems to be, despite all the challenges you have there, there's certainly opportunities for joy there. What, amidst all of this stuff, because I imagine that sometimes it can be a bit discouraging. What is sustaining you to keep moving forward with the work, and what for you provides you with joy? I mean, we talked a little bit about your work with palliative care, but what other things?
I think what gives me equilibrium in my life is my prayer life, and then the fact of living in a community and being by a parish which is very active. This is what gives me a great balance and gives me a purpose. I think my spiritual life is really what moves me and helps me seeing the work that I do, that it is for Jesus, right? So this is really my motive. At the same time, I think people here have a joy for life, which is what I also found when I got to Brazil, right?
Mhm.
Brazil is also a very lively country, and the poor people are closer to God, and usually because they have less, they find joy in everything. And people here really, you think, well, they don't have like, they have to carry water on their head every day, and then they have this hard work, and their life is surviving because they really work day to day for the basic things that we take for granted. But they don't have electricity in their home a lot of times, and they don't have running water. But then they make you part of their family right away, and then for them, singing and dancing is really. part of the lives. And I think when I see some of the children that we've helped come and embrace me or smile, or I have this little child that came today and she has hydrocephaly, and then we actually were able to pay the surgery for her, and now she's walking a little bit, and she made these little steps and said, "Bonjour, ma sœur." Say, "Hello, sister," right? That just makes you really moved, because you think that that child could have died, but we're able to do something. So I think those are very, uh, that that motivates me to go on and say, well, if I can do the difference in one person's life, I've done something very important.
Well, thank you again. That might be a good place to sort of wrap up our conversation. You certainly strike me as having led a remarkable life and a remarkable career doing what you're doing. And it's always a pleasure and inspiration to be talking with you. In the spirit of full disclosure, Sister Monique and I go back, I think now it's probably about 15 years or 10 to
Mm-hmm.
15 years. Yeah. So it's always been a joy. I have to say, I have to ask you, are you still playing soccer?
No.
Oh, no.
Like, no, I stopped when I was 50. Yeah, I played a lot in Brazil. We had great tournaments. The World Cup of soccer happened in 2014, right close to my home, and I
Oh,
got the
yeah.
chance to be part of that whole moment that was very important for Brazil, even though we lost. But we actually played against the women worker for the stadium, right? So the how do you call it? The building company organized a little field inside the stadium where the World Cup happened. And throughout the construction, they would have these games, and then one other person that was working with me said, "Oh, we should have a game against the women workers with the women with our team, which was from the Saint Marcelin." I said, "Well, okay, let's go." So we had this, and we had the reporters coming in and the TV channels, and then it went on TV. It actually went on TV because it was the nuns. I was the only nun playing, but it was the nuns against the workers, and we actually won 12-0. And the guy that one of the reporter that made the sequence that would go on TV, he actually compared, the film with Whoopi Goldberg. How do you call it? The
Oh, Sister Act?
Yeah, he took part of the sister act for the game. It was really funny. I can try to send you the example.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
I'd love to see that. Yeah.
yeah, it was really funny. And then when I made one of the goals, because I only made one of 12, but he said it was like reporter of God. And then the reporter was just going on the field, and it was funny. Anyway, I'll send you I'll
Please,
try to send you the video.
please do. I mean, how could you have lost? You had God on your
I
side.
know, I
So,
know.
there was no way that they were going to try to beat you because they'd be defeating a nun. And just
That's right.
the ramifications of that might have been too great for them.
Yeah. And then at the end, we had like that little dance with Neymar, that a chant, choo, choo, choo chant. And it's funny.
One final question. Those who listen to Planet Family Doc know what it's going to be. We have a hypothetical potluck dinner for all the guests that we've had on the Planet Family Doc podcast, where we invite them to bring the dish of their choice to share with all the other guests if we hypothetically could all get together. Now, you've been in Canada, you've been in Brazil, you've been in Benin. I'm really interested to hear what dish you would like to bring.
I would bring, well, I would say, like, if I would be really conventional. I'd just say like an eggplant lasagna. But there is really a dessert which I bet nobody knows about. But in Quebec, we call it nombril de seour, which would be nun's belly button. And that's like it's a little small dessert, but it's very good. It's made out of a dough, and then you put brown sugar in it, and then you swirl it, and it's like these little swirls, which looks like belly button, and then you put it on the oven, and then you cook it, and when it's hot and sugary, it's very good. So nun's belly button, that's what I would bring.
Wow. And I assume we can't modify the name and call it Sister Monique's belly button.
No, no, no.
Do you have any idea where the name originated?
I have no clue. I even tried to look it up on internet, but I couldn't find it. But my family always called it like that.
Well, we're looking forward to having that at the dinner as well. If you, when we go offline, if you happen to have a picture of it, I would love to take a look at it to see what this dessert
Oh,
actually
okay.
looks like. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure as always chatting with you, and I wish you well in Benin. And hopefully there'll be a time when you come back to Canada for a family medicine forum, and our paths will cross there again too. So thank you again.
Thank you. But thank you for having invited me and for this wonderful exchange and conversation. It's always nice to chat with you as well. God bless.
And this marks the end of this episode of Planet Family Doc. If you like what you've heard, additional materials and other episodes can be found at our Planet Family Doc homepage, which is planetfamilydoc, all one word, .libsyn, spelled LIBSYN.com. We're also on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be posting a new episode in Season 2 every 2 weeks until June of 2024. We invite you to subscribe. This is a production of the College of Family Physicians of Canada's Bezour Centre for Global Family Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Clayton Dick, and our producers are me and Rivka Chamali. Production assistance has been provided by Vera Showell. A shout out to the Bezour Centre's podcast working group for their invaluable input. Speaking of which, we value your feedback, and if you would like to contact us, please reach us at bezourcentre@cfpc.ca. That's bezourcentre@cfpc.ca. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you next time with another Family Doc somewhere else in the world.